Photographer Melissa Ann Pinney is best known for her studies of the social lives and emerging identities of American girls and women. Her photographs have won her numerous fellowships and awards and found their way into the collections of major museums in the US and abroad. Melissa and I had an initial conversation for Eager to Know, but after its completion, we decided we wanted to connect again to clarify and expand some of the topics we discussed. I'm glad we decided on a second meeting because that meeting is what I ended up using for this podcast. We start our discussion with Melissa talking about some misconceptions about fine photography.
The kind of layman's assumption that pictures almost make themselves. You just have to have the right camera,
Sure.
Um, and and people have asked me that, especially about the school pictures, and especially about the ones where there's all this stuff going on. And you know, the assumption is either that I wrangled everything and posed everybody, or that I just kind of dropped from the sky at the right second and it was all there waiting for me and I just took the picture. I just shot the picture. Um, and, of course, people don't know, a lot of people don't know how photographers work, and everybody works differently too. It's not that everybody works in the same way.
So
But
what would you want people to know? Like, here's your chance, that people assume that everybody now has an iPhone. It's no longer 1953 where my dad had his film camera. Everyone has an iPhone, which has all this advanced stuff. There's not only do they have that, they also have Instagram, so they can share all of their photographs to the world, and they can take as many as they want. So that makes people assume things when they see your photographs. So what do you want them to know?
well, none of those things necessarily make the pictures any good.
Hmm.
What makes the pictures good is paying attention,
Hmm.
um, and being open to whatever's going to happen. So not having preconceived ideas of what kind of picture you're going to make.
Hmm.
Um, because when I'm working in the schools, especially on the playgrounds, and kids are running around and, things are changing in less than a second. They're changing all the time. So nothing's ever just like a tableau that's right there waiting for me to just recognize it. You have to get a sense of where the energy is and get yourself there, and, get yourself in the right place. Um, because if you're 2 feet to the left or 2 feet to the right, it's a completely different picture. Or if you're a tall person. Um, so I guess I want people to understand that the pictures come from this whole kind of evolution of events, finding, sort of being attuned to the energy, finding the possibility of a picture, because you never know if there will be one.
Hmm.
And if there is one, you don't know that you're going to actually get it, because sometimes you just can't kind of find the way through, to organize all that stuff. And I'm talking about some of my pictures that are really complicated visually. Just like any other picture, has to be composed so that the viewer can find a way into it.
So, Melissa, do you see? I'm going to throw something out there, and you can react to it. Do you
Okay.
kind of see the world as all of these pictures happening, actively happening, and you have to navigate and position yourself to capture them? But regardless of whether you were there or not, like, you see the world as pictures actually happening. And
Oh,
you
yeah. They're happening all the time.
see, I don't think
And
most people think that.
um, and the thing is, if you stop and pay attention, um, there's that famous quote about accidents or coincidences happen to the prepared mind. You're looking for them, you're prepared for them. And often when I stop to make one picture, I lose that one, but then something else happens that I couldn't foresee. Um, yeah, I do see pictures going, like when I'm driving or riding in a car, and they're going by all the time. And sometimes, even if you stop, and pull over, you just can't make it that picture with a camera, but anyway, yeah, I see things all the time.
Okay, great.
Um, you know, I heard a talk between Jocelyn Lee and Eleanor Carucci, who are two very well-known contemporary photographers. And both of them had been dancers. Eleanor Carucci had been a belly dancer. I mean, even during her career as a photographer. And Jocelyn Lee had also been a dancer. And Jocelyn Lee said, I think that most street photographers are athletic or have some of that, in their past or in their present, because so much of it is about timing and kind of, it's a game, really.
That makes complete sense to me, and the reason why, because it's about timing and about predicting where someone is going to be and move, because that's a big part of at least like
Right.
team sports, and it's all about having an understanding of where people are and the relationships to people, and sort of
Right.
the different properties that your team members have and how they relate to each other. And I can see, like, coming into a situation where you're taking a photograph, like in the schools, I can see
Right.
that being that mindset.
Yeah, I thought it was, I had thought that before, and I had mentioned it to my husband and daughter, and they sort of didn't really get it. But so anyway, she said it in a way I thought was really understandable, about the sense of bodies in space, bodies moving in space, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just what you said, being able to predict or have an understanding of where things are going.
Interesting. I always find it interesting where you can map different creative activities to other things that are in the real world. Like we just described, mapping playing on a team sport or being like a quarterback on a team to being a photographer. Because I kind of feel the same way with painting. For me, a lot of times I feel like painting is like when I was a project manager, where I would have to start in the planning stage, in the strategy phase, and start really, really big before you do anything. And with the project plan, the vision, etc. Like that's a phase of a painting I have for me.
Right.
Ultimately, it comes down to doing all of the work and then at the end, buttoning up all the details and delivering it. And with a painting, it's the same way. Ultimately, it's going to come down to me using that tiny little brush, eventually.
Right.
But there's a lot of other steps to get there. So that's a fun thing for me, and that's a big part of this podcast is taking what people do and kind of finding other ways to model it, so it can to share it and other people can relate to it.
Well, and when I think about it, I don't know why is it really important that people understand how I make a photograph or how other photographers may make a photograph.
You're saying it is important for people to understand?
I'm saying, is it really important? And I think the reason that sometimes I think it's important is because the assumption behind the other way is that it's all luck and it's not your talent or years of experience or, that it has nothing to do with that it's just, kind of the camera working.
Well, let me ask you this, because, if you're someone who is if the hallmark of a fantastic actor or actress is that it looks easy, like it just happens. And
Right,
people think
right.
that it
An
isn't
athlete.
it isn't necessary. Yeah, it isn't necessarily, and oftentimes the artists or the actors are okay with that. Like they're fine with that. It seems like I could do that, when you really can't, because behind it is all of this other stuff. So does it really matter? Does it matter to you? It sounds like it might, but should it?
Well, it does, but I think also for actors, I've heard actors talk about, people's assumption that they're just being themselves. that character is just who they are, that they're not acting, and
Yes.
kind of pushing back against that.
Was your experience that they're annoyed at that?
Yes. Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. Or fiction writers who write and people think it's all autobiography, and they're saying, no, this is a constructed work. This
Right.
is a work of fiction. I'm not just telling my own story. So I think all three examples are assuming that there is no artistry in what the person is doing. And you're right, because it looks so easy, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's a good thing. I mean, when you see somebody windsurfing and, doing flips and stuff like that, it looks absolutely effortless. And of course, it can't possibly be. Or the Cirque du Soleil people.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. The place where I see that is figure skating. When you see figure skaters where it just looks effortless. And
they're
that's
flying. Yeah, they're just flying.
when it isn't. Like, they have literally been training. That is their life. They've been training every day. And really, to make it look effortless, they're not going to be, I'm assuming that's how you get the high scores, is because it looks like it's just coming out of you.
Right. So I guess the difference in all those examples is the machine that is the camera. That's maybe part of the difference.
What do you
Because,
mean?
well, an actor's instrument is their body and their voice. A skater, a camera is a machine that you're using, and that's a little bit different than just using your voice or your body, like an actor does, or an athlete, or a singer, or a figure skater.
I
And
mean,
that the camera has this long, long history of, ever since its beginning, of people saying, it's not mechanical. There's a maker behind this machine. But
so what do you think of all of this? Because I think did you listen to my interview with Benedict LaSalle?
yes, I
Yeah,
did.
because one of the things I asked her about was, what does she think of Instagram, in that people are able to put forth all of these pictures or images into the world, and
Hmm.
and I think her response was she felt, positively and negatively about it. Is any of that stuff even on your radar? Do you have an opinion on it?
Well, I think what I remembered her saying was that she felt a little threatened by it. Uh, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of great pictures on Instagram when you're looking on your phone. But I think the thing is, and, it's, what is that phrase? It's a long distance thing. This isn't something about, I'm going to post a great picture today on Instagram, and, tomorrow and the next day. It's about, I've been working on these themes for 40 years, So I don't feel threatened by all that work on Instagram. I think it's overwhelming, and I'm part of it. I'm posting there too. I don't know. Maybe there's just this glut of imagery, and I don't know how it affects the fine art market, if there is a market, or just people interested in people who've been working over a long time and who are publishing books or having books published. I don't know. It seems to me like they're two separate things in a way.
Okay.
No, I know they overlap. I mean, there's people who start on Instagram and then become editorial photographers or have books published because they get noticed for their work. So in
Yeah.
a way, it evens the playing field in a lot of ways.
Well,
You know,
I think all of these platforms give opportunities that weren't there, and I've talked about this with many artists, because I've talked to musicians specifically about this. Years ago, if you were a musician, the only way for you to get your music out to people is to play for them. Like you had to invite them into a room and play for them, unless you could get your music recorded. And the only way to do that would be to work with a big company. You know, you would have to have it turned into records. And you can't do that in your home. You can't do that in your basement. You need a company to do that, or to distribute it. On, you know, and I guess the point is now anyone can record music on their computer. They can edit it themselves, you know, they can, and then they
Hmm.
can share it on Bandcamp, YouTube for free, and it's the entire world can see it. I mean, that's incredible. And who knows? And so the question that I've had oftentimes is, obviously that's a good thing, but that's going to introduce all sorts of quality of product out there, you know. And there's, who
Hmm.
knows, there could be the next great singer songwriter is someone who is in a small town in Kansas with no money, and they're able to get something out on YouTube. Like that's how Justin Bieber started. Are you, not that he's like a great singer songwriter, but
Well, he certainly became a rich and famous
yeah,
singer-songwriter.
and he
Yeah, I know
started,
that's how he started.
he started on, his mom posted videos on YouTube. So, you know, Instagram's kind of potentially, like you said, could be the same thing for photographers.
Yes, absolutely.